Virgil van Dijk casts doubt over his long-term future at Liverpool following Jurgen Klopp's shock decision to step down as manager in the summer. Hi, good evening. Welcome along to the Transfer Show. Well, while Liverpool have key decisions to make in the summer, we're into the final week of the January transfer window, and other clubs have more immediate problems to solve.
We are waiting to see what happens.
The club is working.
Are you leaving the club in the summer?
For me? No.
If you are to add, do you need to lose someone?
Difficult, but maybe one or two players.
All eventualities could happen.
That's totally fake news.
I think you're making things up, to be honest.
Right, let's start with Liverpool. And Virgil van Dijk admits he could follow Jurgen Klopp out of the club. Van Dijk has 18 months left on his current deal, and when asked if he would be part of the Liverpool rebuild, he said, now that's a big question. I don't know. The club will have a big job on their hands, that is well known, to replace not only the manager, but the whole staff. And there are so many things that will change. I'm very curious which direction that will go in, but when that will be announced, we will see our situation. Well, it'll be the end of Jurgen Klopp's era. I'm still part of it, and that's why I don't like to talk about it. And that is my main focus. Hopefully, we will have the success we all dream of, and by then, probably, there will be more clarification about what the club wants for the future, and then we will see. Dharmesh Sheth, should Liverpool fans be even more worried than they were when they heard the Jurgen Klopp announcement?
I think when you have a big departure and a big change at a football club with someone like a Jurgen Klopp who's been there 8.5 years already, then there's always going to be uncertainty about the future of a number of their players. Someone like Virgil van Dijk, he's only played under Jurgen Klopp since he's been at Liverpool. And because he's only got 18 months left on his contract, that's why his situation and Trent Alexander-Arnold's situation and potentially Mohamed Salah's situation has come under increased focus, simply because when Jurgen Klopp leaves, they'll all have 12 months left of their contract. Now, when you get to 12 months left in a contract, it's usually one of two decisions to make for the football club. That is, sell or renew. Hence why it's probably natural when you get to that stage that you're going to be thinking about what happens next, particularly when an era like the one that Jurgen Klopp enjoyed at Liverpool, all of the players that he brought, the style of play that he's brought to Liverpool as well, and the trophies that he's won, it's such a monumental change to go from the change of a manager, but all of his backroom staff are leaving as well, the sporting director's leaving as well. And so what ideas are the new people who come in going to have? And as much as it is a player's thinking, what am I going to do next? It's the club's thinking as well. Which way do they want to go? And Virgil van Dijk's alluded to that already. It'll be interesting to see which direction Liverpool go in, and that will probably dictate what he does next.
What do you think, Mark?
Well, I think it's fascinating to see how it plays out. Of course, the Jurgen Klopp news last week caught everyone by surprise, and there would have been a number of those players that were probably thinking about their future anyway, and it would have been based around working for Jurgen Klopp if they were to sign contract extensions. Whoever comes into the hot seat there, they've got to find a new manager, potentially convince three of the key players to try and start the new era. This is an exciting new time for the football club. You need to be a part of it. They've got to have those conversations. And, of course, they've got to try and attack the window in the right way as well. We don't know whoever the new manager will be, the new sporting director will be, what types of players they would like to recruit for Liverpool in the summer. So it's going to be brilliant to see how it plays out, because this is a football club that right now is challenging for the Premier League, and they're getting to the latter stages of competitions. They're in the Carabao Cup final. This is clearly a good group. This is clearly an exciting time, and it could all turn over the course of the summer. So that's where they need to get these big decisions right. And, of course, trying to replace players is a massive problem. Virgil van Dijk, if they decide to sell him, they've got to try and replace him. The same with Trent, the same with Mo Salah. Those three players, to find top-class, world-class replacements, could cost in excess of £200 or £300 million. That's the big decision they've got to try and get right. And I think it'd be brilliant to see how it plays out. It would be great for us over the course of the summer to see which direction the Liverpool journey takes. But big 6 months ahead for that football club.
What is interesting as well is, because I mentioned everything at the club seems to be changing, not only the manager, his backroom staff, but also the sporting director, I wonder how far in advance Liverpool will have gone with their forward planning with regard to recruitment, because they would have planned not so long ago. Jurgen Klopp got a contract called 2026, so they would have assumed, right, whoever signs, you're not only going to be playing for Liverpool, but Jurgen Klopp would have been a big pull to bring players to the football club as well. Now that he's not going to be there, are some of those recruitment plans going to change? What will the new sporting director want to do? What will the new manager want to do? What will the new coaching staff want to do? So it's going to be really, really interesting to see the next step in this process for Liverpool.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. That one is, of course, coming up in the future. I want to talk about a player in demand right now. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall at Leicester. What's the story with him?
Yeah, interest from both Brighton and Brentford. He's a player that's been brilliant for Leicester City and Enzo Maresca this season in the Championship. He's had a couple of loan spells, really started to develop. He's 25 years old now. We know that Leicester City have put a valuation on him at 40+ million. So it's a significant deal for either of these two clubs to get done.
So could that get done in this window? 40 million?
It's a big deal to happen. The sideshow to this interest from both Brentford and Brighton is that there are talks that Leicester City are running close to the wind with regards to their PRS, their FFP commitments. They need to be careful, of course. Relegation from the Premier League means the £105 million that they can lose over a rolling 3-year period changes. So therefore, their commitments with regards to meeting the financial fair play rules also changes as an EFL club. So that might be something to keep an eye on. It's a huge deal to get done at the moment. We know that Leicester City are having a fabulous season in the Championship. They're 7 points clear. This is an option perhaps where the club could say, look, we can lose one of our best players because the money is more important in this situation. We still believe we've got enough to get promoted. However, it's going to be one to keep an eye on. One of those clubs that's been linked, Brighton, and Roberto De Zerbi, and he's been speaking to the media about Kieran Dewsbury-Hall.
I don't know anything about him. I know him as a player. He has a great quality, but it's not my business speaking about other players, especially. Enzo Maresca is my friend, and I want to be correct with him.
So Roberto De Zerbi talking about his friend, the manager of Leicester City, Enzo Maresca there, so he wanted to be respectful. But it just one to keep an eye on between now and Thursday. The other one to keep an eye on as well with regards to Leicester City, Stefano Sensi. We know that negotiations have continued with Inter Milan over the 28-year-old midfielder. Interestingly, this has been going on for some time, which leads you to think that perhaps Leicester have to be careful with regards to their financial commitments and what they spend, and therefore, hence why this one is just taking perhaps a little longer than expected.
OK. All right, now, loads of question marks over how the week will go at Newcastle. Still feels like it's all up in the air. Once again, the subject of transfers dominated Eddie Howe's news conference today.
4 days left of the transfer window. I know you'll be looking forward to it closing. Are the club still active in the transfer market?
Still active.
Nothing's
changed. Yeah. Nothing's changed. It's copy and paste from after the game, before the game against Fulham. And I've got no fresh news to give you. We're still sort of waiting to see what will happen.
It felt a little bit like when you spoke on Friday that either Almirón or Wilson could potentially go, just by the way you said, like, some things are out of your control, and there's noise around it, and that noise comes from somewhere. Is that still the case, or can you put a closure on these guys leaving?
You trying to put words into my mouth, Keith? I don't think I said that. We are waiting to see what happens. I don't want to talk about individual player names. I don't think that's right. Yeah, so that's what I say.
If you are to add, do you need to lose someone?
Yeah, I think it's a complex situation, so I don't think anything's clear-cut. All eventualities could happen. Probably what we won't do is bring a player in without losing one the other way. I think that would be impossible. But I think all other options could still happen.
There was a report this morning that the club have made an approach to Aston Villa. I don't know if it's recent or if it's historical, for midfielder Jacob Ramsey. Anything you could tell us on that?
That's incorrect.
OK. And also Matt Targett, is there potential that he could potentially go out on loan? Again, another report that Celtic had made an inquiry.
No, incorrect. Matt's
not doing well
injured.
today.
No, you're way off. Matt's injured, and he's still got some time to go in his injury, and he's also a big part of what we're doing here.
Keith Downey doing his best to get a line out of Eddie Howe there. Dharmesh, what did you make of that?
Well, it's interesting what we've been talking about since the chief executive has come out and said that Newcastle United need to sell before they can bring a player in. Eddie Howe has basically confirmed that for probably the third time in his last 3 news conferences. But the 3 players we were talking about before, Kieran Trippier, Callum Wilson, Miguel Almirón. Now, we know that he was pretty adamant he didn't want to see Kieran Trippier go. Bayern Munich did push. They tried 3 times, even though the message was not for sale. And eventually, they didn't go for Kieran Trippier. And as it stands, even though he says every eventuality is possible in the last few days, Kieran Trippier stays. Also in that news conference, he was asked about Callum Wilson. And he says, look, I don't know where this has come from because I've got 2 strikers and one of them's Callum Wilson. So basically, he was effectively ruling that one out. But reading between the lines when it comes to Miguel Almirón, he's not so committal on what the future's going to hold for Miguel Almirón. Probably because if they were to sell Almirón, they would probably get a good transfer fee for him, particularly because we know that the club that are after him are in the Saudi Pro League. Al Shabab are still really pushing to try and sign Miguel Almirón. And if they can agree a deal with Newcastle United, then it's going to be down to the player. Now, our colleague Keith Downey, who was in that news conference, has spoken to people close to Miguel Almirón, and as of a week ago, he wasn't too keen on leaving Newcastle for Saudi Arabia at this stage. But it all depends on what kind of offer Al Shabab will make to Newcastle and also to the player. So that's the one, I think, in the last 3 days of this window that we've just got to keep an eye on, because even though it doesn't look like Callum Wilson and Trippier will be going, the Almirón one just seems just to be floating around there. So one to watch there.
Definitely keep an eye on that. News of a midfielder at Newcastle, Mark.
Yeah, positive news, because all this talk about departures for Eddie Howe, they've signed Lewis Miley on a new contract, 17-year-old who's established himself as a first-team regular, really. And I always think it's brilliant to see how young players get into the team. Now, essentially, he's got his opportunities because of the injury problems that Newcastle have had this season. But what in actual fact has happened is they've unearthed a gem, someone that has been brilliant in the early stages. He's only a youngster, but he has taken to that midfield like he was born to do it. He's been absolutely superb. And we've spoken on this show many times about Newcastle not having the ability to sell players, not selling players from the academy like Chelsea and Manchester City have done. This could be a player. I'm not saying he's going to get sold, but he's one of those players that's come through this route. If they went out to try and buy a midfielder like Lewis Miley, it'd probably cost 25, 30 million pounds. They've already got him in the building. They haven't had to spend that money. It's just their academy that's starting to produce players. Yeah. Now, of course, there's a long process to go, but the fact that he's been signed on is massive, because he's been brilliant and he's a player that the fans identify with.
Yeah. We'd all agree that Tottenham have had a fantastic window, but have they been beaten to a player by Brentford, Mark?
Yeah, Antonio Nusa. Now, he's only 18 years old. He's currently a super player and someone that has been watched by a number of the big sides in European football and, of course, in the Premier League. We knew at the start of the window that talks had happened between Tottenham and his club. He is someone that could potentially be a real superstar of the future. He's got a great profile. He's 6 foot. He's athletic. He's a lovely ball carrier. He's right-footed, but plays solely on the left-hand side. But someone that I definitely think would be worth keeping an eye on. What's happening is that we know over the course of the weekend a deal was agreed for £25 million and that he would be loaned back as well. So he won't be coming to Brentford until the summer, but potentially could be another one of those exciting young players that hits the ground running for Thomas Frank in the summer. And you start to look at Brentford's team for next season thinking, that could be superb. That could be really exciting to watch.
OK, so we'll keep an eye on Brentford there.
Yes.
But Spurs may have missed out on Nusa, but they've got a midfielder staying. Tell us more.
Yeah, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is a player that looks to be staying. There's been a little bit of noise about him over the course of this window. Potentially could be heading out of North London. His agent has been speaking as well, and he said despite rumours and noise, the players kept his focus on helping the team, coaches and everyone at Tottenham. That's what his agent has said. The player has never asked to leave. Now, he's very ambitious for Tottenham and Denmark and continuing to improve himself like he did all of his career. He's a strong character and player. His only focus is Tottenham and to finish the season as well and as help as much as possible. Pierre always liked the challenges. So he's basically said there, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be staying in North London. So anyone talking about Højbjerg leaving in this window, you're off the mark.
Right, I've got some breaking news for you. It's breaking transfer news, but it's golfing news. Tyrrell Hatton has become the latest top golfer to join Live Golf. There are reports he'll receive just under £50 million. Much more on that right here at Sky Sports News at about 5:30. Next, though, on the transfer show, Aston Villa and West Ham are chasing attackers. And we have the very latest on the Sunderland player who refused to play at the weekend. That and more to come. See you in a moment. Hello again, this is the Transfer Show. Now, Mikel Arteta has moved quickly to shut down reports that he could leave Arsenal at the end of the season. Now, Barcelona-based outlet Diario Sport claimed that Arteta wanted to replace Xavi at Barca in the summer.
Are you leaving the club in the summer?
Who, me? No, that's totally fake news. What you read yesterday is, I don't know where it's coming from, and it's totally untrue. I'm really upset about it. I could not believe. I don't know where it's coming from, and it has no source. It's got nothing, and I think we have to be very cautious when you talk about personal things to put it in the way that it was put yesterday.
You've got unfinished business here, quite clearly.
I'm in the right place. I'm with the right people. I feel really good about it, and as I said many times, I'm immersed in a beautiful journey with this football club, with these players, the staff, our people, and there is still a lot to do.
Obviously, your contract does run out in 18 months' time or so. I know everyone's very relaxed. The board's with you, you're with the board. There's no rush to talk about a new contract, but is that something that might put these rumours to bed?
I don't know. I think I've got a extraordinary relationship with the board, with Edu, with team, with ownership, and things come in a natural way. And we always done it that way, and it worked out really well. And when the time is right, we would have those discussions, and I think about the best way to do it.
So, Dharmesh, he's a man who's been backed by Arsenal. Why would anybody leave that to go to what is a financial basket case in the shape of Barcelona?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I mean, it's the history that Mikel Arteta has with Barcelona where maybe someone's put two and two together and got 500 because he was really, really quick to shut down those rumours. He says he's on a beautiful journey with Arsenal. And if you think about whenever you hear from Edu and anyone on the board at Arsenal, they're always saying effectively that Mikel Arteta, he is the long-term project at Arsenal. This is something that they've built on, that they wanted to bring him from quite a while ago. Took him from a position of an assistant at Manchester City. Such was the faith that they had in Mikel Arteta. And what have they done since he's arrived? They've backed him massively in the transfer market as well. If you look at last summer alone, was around £200 million, over £100 million to bring Declan Rice there, Jurrien Timber, Kai Havertz as well. So I think it's the history that he's got with Barcelona that all of these rumours have come together, coupled with the fact that, of course, Xavi has announced that he will be leaving at the end of the season too, but it doesn't look like he wants to go anywhere, given the project that he's got going at Arsenal, and compare that to what you mentioned there, your words, not mine, but what's happening at Barcelona just now financially.
I'm happy to stand by those words. Mark, he shut it down. Do you think that's it? Done? No move to Barcelona?
I certainly don't think that would happen. I think the interesting question that Gary Cottrell posed in that press conference was, you're into the last 18 months of your current Arsenal contract. Would a new deal potentially put any of those rumours to bed? And he didn't quite answer that question with an outstanding yes, that would be the case. You'd imagine that Arsenal will be working quietly in the background, potentially about extending that deal. But I think it shows also the relationship that he has with the board and Edu, as Dharmesh touched upon. They're all quite relaxed. They're all on board. They're all on the same page. And they're continuing to build this young side. It would seem bizarre if Arsenal or Mikel Arteta would be going out to buy these young 21, 22, 23-year-old players and build something for the future that could be dominant for not just one season, but maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. And he wouldn't be at the heart of it, both personally or, of course, the club putting the faith in him. So I think it's one of those. It's just a bit of media talk, a bit of speculation. The name fit the bill. There was a talk about Jurgen Klopp leaving Liverpool. There's a talk about Xavi leaving Barcelona. What's a great story? Where's a great connection? This man, not going to happen.
All right. We haven't spoken about Aston Villa. It doesn't seem much in this window, but they are hoping to add to the squad this week. Unai Emery confirmed they're working on at least one deal.
Tomorrow we are playing against Newcastle. It's most important than the deadline for the transfer window. And my focus is completely tomorrow Newcastle. But of course, the club is working with some players can leave, and if we can add or link with us on some difficult, but maybe one or two players. But my focus is tomorrow.
Right, Mark, who could the one or two players be?
I think we certainly know one of the players, Morgan Rogers at Middlesbrough, a player that Aston Villa have bid for a third time over the course of the weekend. Now, we understand that third offer to be around £15 million. As of yet, hasn't been rejected, but it's still not at what Middlesbrough feel the player is worth. He's been brilliant for Michael Carrick this season. 7 goals in 33 games, both in the Championship and the Cup. And he's someone that's come through the Manchester City Academy. So he has great pedigree, went on loan at Bournemouth, didn't quite work out. I watched him at Lincoln City under Michael Appleton. Brennan Johnson one side, we know what happened to him. Morgan Rogers on the other. That was a really exciting Lincoln team. I think this is one to keep an eye on. Talks continue.
Do you know, I've got a whole list of other players we want to talk about. You'll have to tune in at 7. We will get to all of them. Coming up after the break, after the transfer show, the big transfer in golf. See you in just a minute.